This is my video for the House of Books and Tales Library, and I want to tell you a bit about myself. I'm a writer, and I'm an artist or an illustrator, and it's a wonderful, wonderful life to live a life of creativity, and it is so interesting to see what comes next for a project I'll undertake, either with a friend or through a publisher or through an agent, a literary agent or an art rep that brings along something to my desktop and says, are you interested in doing this? So I've done so many different projects through the years. I want to tell you a little about them, but first, let me tell you a bit about my current project and something about my early life, because it's interesting. You know, and I haven't told too many people this, I'm actually, when I was still 7, 8 years old, I was still afraid of the dark. I didn't want to go downstairs into the basement. My parents had built a new house, and it was pretty dark and dingy down there, and I'm pretty sure there was some monsters living in there, because when I went down in the end of the day, I could see things moving around. It was pretty suspicious. And that went on for quite a few years. And now, my current book that I'm just writing, it's still in the final edits with my publisher in Canada called Orca Book Publishers. They're based in Victoria, BC. And it's a book about the dark. How to save it. Problem is, so many lights, artificial lights that we have created since the Industrial Revolution over 150 years ago, if you go out into space and you look back at Earth, it's not dark at night anymore. So what is all that light doing to the many millions of species on our planet that have adapted themselves through evolution to the dark? Those animals that live at night, nocturnal animals. What's it doing to them now that it's not dark at night? How are they surviving? How are the prey getting away from their predators? Who's got the upper hand now? What about insects? Many of whom live at night and are attracted to artificial lights and swirl around them and around them and around them until they drop dead on the sidewalk. You must have seen them. Anyways, that's my current book. It's called Light Pollution, Saving the Night, and it is coming out probably in about a year from now. I have another book with the same publisher that's coming out this spring, and that's about sound pollution. See, I'm trained as a biologist, so that means that I studied science of life, how living things are diverse throughout our planet, and how they survive, and how they reproduce, and how they join together to create the beautiful natural world that we see around us. I'm very interested in that. I'm very interested in making our planet and keeping our planet habitable so we can live on it for generations to come, and that it should be beautiful, that it should be healthy. So not just for human health. If we create an unhealthy planet, it is bad for everybody, including all the different species that live here. So instead of looking for a new planet, let's make our planet here one that we're proud of to pass on to our children, to our friends, and live in it in health and harmony and equilibrium, which means everything balanced by itself. Nature has an amazing way of doing that, as we know. If I had to give myself a book title, what would it be? I would call myself Awareness. I think we need to have more awareness. Awareness of the actions that we take. What is the effect of those actions? Awareness of people and living organisms around us. What effect are we having on them? Listening to those animals and organisms, to our friends, listening to what they need and what they think is a very important part of living together on the planet. And I think awareness is in short supply right now. It takes being quiet in yourself. It takes listening to yourself, listening to everything around yourself, And it takes that pause instead of just acting and just responding and just coming to a very quick response to somebody who says something or does something to us, and acting out of spite or revenge or wanting to get the upper hand, or seeing somebody who is struggling and bullying them and making them feel worse and making them feel small. All of that is lack of awareness, and I would call myself awareness. Let's have more awareness. I just did a book, a beautiful book for a self-publishing author in Vancouver. It's called The Who That I Am. And I don't think I have a copy with me here, but it's about accepting yourself the way you are. Not comparing yourself to other people, but seeing how unique you are and how unique you're different your friends may be, but that's okay. Because the way they are is just perfect for them. The way I am shouldn't have to be compared to how other people are. Why can't I accept the way I am, love the way I am, and give that same love and awareness to other people who are different? So the Who That I Am was a poem written by a first-time publishing author, Cynthia Carla. And I created a character for that book, a young elephant, and that elephant has many animal friends, and they do many things together to show that no matter if I'm silly, no matter if I'm sad, no matter if I'm rowdy, no matter if I'm jumpy or climbing, or whether I'm first or whether I'm last, it is all okay. What I am, the who that I am, and just love it for who you are. I was trained as a biologist, as I mentioned, so many people ask me, well, how did you become a writer and an illustrator of children's books? Well, it was an interesting story, because initially, when I got my degree in biology, I didn't want to go into doing research into a certain type of biology, because it felt like I was being confined into a smaller box. And I wanted to go this way into expanding my knowledge of the universe and our planet as a whole. So I went actually back to school and studied architecture for a couple of years, which really reopened my art channel where I could draw and paint. And I loved the first few years of architecture. It was very creative. And from that, what evolved was something that I had not expected at all, was I ended up being an illustrator and an artist for biological publications. I worked for Parks Canada, drawing plants and animals. I worked for Natural Resources Canada, I drew some things on other planets, worked with scientists there, worked with the Museum of Nature and did displays and all these things that were related to biology and the way that I had been trained, but very detailed and accurate drawings and paintings that could be used for teaching people about nature and about living things. So I worked on that for many, many years, mostly in the publications end of things. And from there, I found a beautiful place in India that I love to visit, and I made my studio. This is my latest studio behind me here. You can see it. It's the top of a house that I built, and I'm here a lot of the time every year, and I love to create and paint here. And when I was here, many years ago, I met a Norwegian friend who was doing a book about Norse mythology, and he said he would like to make some cards to go along with the book that could be used to like a tarot card to give people a certain reading on how their life is going to go, or tell them a bit about their past. So I worked on that project with him. It was a fun project. It was a very creative project. It's called Odin's Journey, the Norse Wisdom Cards. And inside the package is a book. And this is by a friend, Lars Ims. You can see him here. That's not Lars, but that's Odin, who's a famous Norwegian character from Norse mythology. And inside the box also, there are a number of different cards on so many different things that are part of the Norse mythology, great stories of deities and gods and all sorts of different characters and what happened to them through the Norse mythology, or as we call here, the Norse wisdom cards. And the reason I'm telling you that, although it's out of print now, is that opened up a whole channel of creativity and imagination for me, which led me into starting to illustrate children's books. And I found an agent in Canada. She was a wonderful agent. Actually, she was in New York in the USA, but she did find me various book contracts through the American publishing system, a lot of educational books, and she would find me work, and I would paint them here and draw them in my studio, and then send them over to her through file upload to the publishers. And so that opened up a whole channel. So I illustrated a lot of books for a lot of other people. And then at a certain point I thought, well, I can write these books myself. So I started to write my own stories and illustrate my own stories. And that was a lot of fun, because it's nice to illustrate other people's things. It's nice if you get a very good story, it's very inspiring. You may know this book, because I think this is on the House of Books and Tales library. This is The Mountain I Love the Bird. And so shortly thereafter, Alice McLaren, who sadly is no longer with us, but Alice sent me a story, and she saw my website, StephenAitken.com, and that'll be posted on this video somewhere, I hope. And she saw that I was living at the time in my studio in the mountains, and the book is about a mountain and a bird. Strangely, a mountain is a character in the book, and the bird was called Joy. And when I read this story, I was very, very touched. It's a beautiful story. It was written back in 1983 or 84, and it lives on today for new generations of readers. It's been translated into Chinese and Turkish and 18 languages in India. It's in Polish, it's in Swahili, it's in so many different Arabic and Urdu. It just has gone to so many readers who understand different languages. And she loved my work, and we worked together to find publishers together. And I still do new books in different languages, still selling the rights to those languages to many publishers around the world. And my illustrations in it, I'll show you a little bit. You can see that cover, that's Joy, the big orange bird. And inside, there she is on the mountain. And you can see, when she landed on that dark, cold mountain, the mountain did not know and had never felt the touch of beautiful, gentle feet of a living thing. And though Joy had to leave every year because there was nothing for her to eat, I mean, you can see the mountain just breaking down and crying rivers of tears because Joy had to go every year and couldn't live on the mountain. I won't tell you the whole story. You'll have to get the book and read it. But the point is that out of that love, an entire ecosystem of animals and insects and trees and plants grew out of the love that bird had through her many generations of producing new young fledglings and young birds, also called Joy. And the mountain just continued to love her, and the whole biodiversity of the world unfolded out of that love. I think it's such a beautiful story, and that really kick-started myself into the children's book world, and Alice and I became very, very good friends. So through writing, you meet so many wonderful people. You travel to so many places and are so interested. I've been to London, I've been to Frankfurt, I've been to Amsterdam many times. I love Amsterdam. I've been to the south of the US, to Florida. My hometown is Ottawa in Canada. I've been all across Canada and Vancouver and the East Coast. My family's from the east side of Canada. When I was very young, my dad used to tell us stories from the Bible, from the Old Testament. And he had been brought up in that tradition. And when we would lie down at night, he would give us a new story every night about somebody in the Bible who had, lived as a fisherman and had cast his net far and wide and made many friends. And then there was Moses on the mountain who came down after having had a revelation of the truth that was needed by all of his followers and his community and tribe. And all these stories had an underlying meaning to them. They were like parables, as they often say. And that really sparked me. My imagination just spun out on those. When I was young, I used to really believe that I could fly, and I dreamed a lot about flying, and I'd fly through the air in my dreams all the time. I even tried it a few times in real life when I was only 7 or 8, not very successfully. I hit the ground pretty hard, but I felt that inner lift from wanting to be in the sky and be away from it all. So when this, another book, this is Pokiri Parrot, which I did for another Indian publisher. This is for Kata Books. I illustrated this book, but when it came across my desk, Pokiri Parrot and the Needle-Nosed Oja, it's all about Pokiri Parrot and the little girl, Rajkumari, who flies through the sky. So I thought, oh, this looks really interesting, and you'll enjoy it because it's a trip through India to a lot of different places. The Needle-Nosed Oja obviously is not a very nice fellow, but Rajkumari successfully goes and captures and recaptures her parrot, which the Oja had stolen. So a wonderful book from Kata Books. I hope that's in the library for House of Books and Tales Library too. So I'm the illustrator of that book. You can see that. Art by Stephen Aitken, and the author is Meenakshi Bharadwaj. Wonderful book.